Hey everybody, welcome to Empty Bottle Sports. Corey here hosting tonight, and I've got Danny and Zane with me as always. Danny, what you drinking today? How you doing?
Well, I still got it in the fridge. I got the spotted cow from Wisconsin, so we're just gonna be running this every single show until we run out because I love this.
Nice.
Awesome, awesome. Zane, how about yourself?
Yeah, hey guys. Tonight I did a homemade chocolate milk, so chocolate hazelnut milk.
All
It's actually
right,
really good.
keeping it classy. I like it.
Yeah.
Spike it with anything?
I thought about it. A little under the weather today, so I just kept it straight up. But definitely next time.
Keep it healthy. I like it. I am sipping on some whiskey, as I tend to do. It's either that
All
or
right.
kryptonite. I felt called out last week, so we went a little harder this time.
Yeah, you gotta make
All
up
right,
for
we're
it.
gonna thought I'd gloss by that one. All right, we're gonna touch on some college football today. We're gonna do a little weekend recap of some big games with some big name teams that underperformed, and we'll touch on Georgia and South Carolina first. Danny, I'm gonna throw it to you. What were the takeaways here in Georgia's win?
I feel like they looked not invincible for once in the past couple of seasons. And you know what? Actually, Missouri almost scared them last year in Columbia, and this was kind of another scare, but this was at home. I feel like going to the season, everyone was saying Georgia is going to be the national in the college football playoff again because they have such a weak schedule. South Carolina, they're a good team, but they're not an amazing team. And I think they kind of got exposed a little bit. Georgia did that. If they were playing a better schedule, I feel like we would have seen a better, more losses on their resume, maybe probable losses. But I think it just more showed us that Georgia is kind of not as great as they were last year.
Yeah, yeah, Zane, what are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, Georgia looked beatable, and definitely South Carolina maybe could have closed out that game, but I think you're gonna you're gonna have those on a even on a championship season. I would really wouldn't read into it that much. And I think for Spencer Rattler, I mean, we think about him back in Oklahoma, he was like the guy, he was Heisman candidate. Then Caleb Williams takes over for him and basically he never sees, the field again. Goes to South Carolina, and I think they're competitive. They're a good team. But I just think about where his stock was and where it is now. And there was a pretty large fall, but I just think that Georgia still should retain that one seed. I think you're going to have those close, conference games. So I wouldn't read too much into it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you both in a way. I agree, Danny. Georgia was exposed a little bit. They obviously have things to work on. This isn't the uh, top of the SEC Georgia that's running away with it that we've seen in the past. They're still, I think, far and away the best team, but the that far and away the gap seems to be narrowing. And I agree, Zane. They're going to retain that number one spot as they should, and probably for several more weeks, if not throughout the season, because of that schedule you talked about, Zane or Danny. But there's definitely some things that they're going to go back and look at the film on and just be shaking their heads. Um, so we'll see. They're not the only team to underperform this weekend, and I think that as those teams go, they were probably still the better one. So we're going to take it on down to Alabama and South Florida. This one was, I think, shocking to a lot of people and not so shocking to some others. Zane, we'll toss this one to you.
Yeah, this one concerned me maybe a little bit more than Georgia going up against a conference opponent. Alabama schedules how many patty cake games, 4 or 5 a year, where they should beat them by 40 points. Uh, One thing that the South Florida Bulls did well, their quarterback was able to break contain a lot. Alabama wasn't able to spy their quarterback, you know, and I think it was for both teams, right? They were just kind of waiting for spark plays. No real consistency, no real identity on either side. You saw that with Alabama using three different quarterbacks, just trying to find a spark. So that one was concerning to me. Ultimately, they did, you know, come out with a win. I think their chances of getting a top four spot are fading quickly. Uh, that win compared to, a Georgia win against a South Carolina win, the Georgia win's going to look much better should Georgia drop a game later in the season. So for Alabama, doesn't look like you're going to get a top 4 seed this year.
Right. Danny, what do you see you shaking your head?
I agree. Yeah, a close loss to South Carolina, or sorry, a close win over South Carolina looks much better than a close win over South Florida, especially at home. My goodness, Bryce Young covered up a lot of my buddies in Alabama fan was saying like, hey, Bryce Young is covering up a lot of deficiencies on that team. So I don't know. There's still like the talent is just still insane in Alabama that you really can't believe that. And then now that we watched this week, I know it wasn't a loss, but it might as well have been with the way they played up against that type of competition. They should be concerned in Tuscaloosa. They really should be.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing chinks in the armor finally, and you're right. I think you and your buddy both that Bryce, he was covering up a lot. And now we're seeing some quarterback trouble in Tuscaloosa. And I mean, they went down like through 3 quarterbacks, and not one of them seemed to be able to push the ball down the field effectively. We saw some Alabama quarterbacks getting absolutely teed off on. I mean, how long has it been since we saw that against a team not at Georgia or LSU a few years ago's level? Like, this is shocking to see, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited to possibly see the downfall of the Nick Saban dynasty down there.
Yeah.
I mean, is he on the
So
hot
let's-
seat? What do we think about Nick Saban? How many
No.
years does he get?
I mean, he's probably got 3 years, and at least come on. How many coaches have we seen ride that like hot seat out without having the championship pedigree?
That's the thing, though. He's the best of the best to have ever coached the college game. I don't know. He would have to really fall downhill for them to kick him out of there. I feel like they would force him into retirement before they would fire him.
I mean, to
And then
me,
who are they going to go after?
I don't know, but I look at like a team, and we'll switch, take a different view. But I look at a team like Kentucky in basketball gave John Calipari a lifetime deal, and it's great to have a name brand coach, but they're middle of the pack now. They're not an elite school anymore, and they're just riding on the nostalgia of John Calipari of old. Now, obviously, Alabama
Here's a curveball for you.
is better recently than Kentucky has been. But I mean, how long do you let it ride if you're Alabama? Do you go get Deion Sanders? I don't know. I don't know.
Ooh, okay.
Oh,
Here's another curveball for you. How long does if the slide continues to, the way it's starting to look like it might, how long until Nick Saban starts getting phone calls from the NFL?
Oh,
I mean, I know he's been there and done that before, but
I feel like he would
talks.
rather retire. I could see him being in like a front office position and like doing consulting stuff. I don't know if I ever see him being a head coach in the NFL again. I just think he's just too tied to the NFL now. Or sorry, to the college game. I just don't know what team would take a risk at that. I don't know about calling it a risk, but just make that move like maybe. You gotta think he's gotta want to go to the right situation also. It's not like he's just gonna take any NFL job. It's gotta be the perfect situation for him to go to.
No, money talks.